Professor fails me because my group went ghost during group project. So I was in a speech class, it was my last semester. Completely online due to COVID. Our professor assigned us a group speech that we were to record and send to him by the due date. I thought it would be easy enough as he gave us 2 weeks to work on it and group speeches weren't anything new to me. He even made separate discussion boards for our groups that we could use to communicate. This project was worth 30% of our grade, so failing this project meant you would pretty much fail the course. I wanted to get it done early so we wouldn't have to worry about it, so I immediately post a message to everyone in the group asking when they were free to do a Zoom meeting to discuss the project. No reply for a few days by any of them. I then post again. This time a little more stern as it didn't seem any of them cared enough to even reply at all. I waited a few more days. At this point we only had a week left before it was due, so I just divided up the work and posted what everyone would need to write their portion of the speech about and gave them a date, time that I would be holding a Zoom meeting for the final recording to send the professor. Still no reply. It was now the day before the speech was to be recorded and 2 days before the speech was due, and my group members had not made an attempt to make contact in any form at all. So I did the only thing I could think of and emailed my professor explaining the situation. But I assumed he would not reply because throughout the entire semester, it took him over a week to reply to any emails I had sent him. I then did the entire group project on my own, which took me the entire night with no sleep. After I finished writing everyone's speech, it was around the time I had scheduled the Zoom meeting to record. I joined it out of amusement, knowing nobody in my group would be there. Sure enough, it was empty. So I did the entire speech myself. But the rubric really put emphasis on transitioning to our other group members, including saying their name. So between every section where it would cut to a different member, I would say something like, "And now, my name, will explain the importance of blah blah," then mute my screen briefly as if to add a cut, put on a different hat, and continue the speech. I did this for all 6 portions of the speech. I turned in the speech shortly after and filled out the group member role sheet that was due as well. I just put my name in every box that was supposed to be a different member. A week passes and I see he graded the project, still not replying to my previous email about the situation by the way, and he gave me a 0 stating it was supposed to be a group project and me doing it solo meant I did not follow instructions. I was actually infuriated by this and knew that emailing him about the grade was as good as useless, so I went straight above him to the board of the college and explained to them what happened. They apologized and said the situation would be resolved, and within a few hours of me talking to the board, he had replied to my email 3 times stating that he was sorry for the miscommunication about the project and that my grade would be corrected, scolded me for going above him saying, I should have just emailed him again if I couldn't get in contact with my classmates. And putting the blame on me for not trying harder to reach out to them. The next semester, I saw that he was no longer with the school. My guess is that it was a habit of his to not reply to emails and he got fired for it. Also, his corrected grade was a 70. But I was so mentally exhausted from the situation at that point that I didn't care to fight it anymore. I once got an A on a debate, solo. My partner realized very quickly that debate wasn't for him, and ghosted on both me and the class, but not until the day of our first debate. I'd had 0 participation from him, so just in case, I did all of the work on our position, and on the day of, I was offered the assistance of the teacher's aide to present, but I chose to go it alone, and got an A. If I was the professor, I'd have given you a 70 times 6. This would have equaled to 100 for your part of the project, plus 320 extra credit points. Yes, a solid A for the semester, to student who is undeterred by the apathy of others. Good for you. I hated group projects because there were always too many freeloaders. The kind of people who hate having you go over their head are the exact kind of people who should be gone over. Out of the whole situation, their immediate takeaway was that you were the problem, when in reality you were the only one not being a broken cog in the machine. I hope they did get fired, as such awful work ethic for a professor is just unprofessional and can even ruin people's lives. Oh, that is hilarious. I can't even fathom why he would immediately fail you for the entire class when you not only showed up for the project but demonstrated that you put a lot of work into it. Rubric be damned. Reminds me of one 12-week project I was assigned to when at uni, and this particular class was remote. I spent 6 weeks of the semester attempting to contact anyone in the group I had been assigned to before finding out belatedly that they had all dropped out of the course in the first week, and none of the course coordinators or lecturers had deigned to inform me of that fact. All you could do was all you did. Glad he's not power tripping on another set of students paying his wage. I had to do something similar last semester. One professor went ghost for over 2 months and did not grade anything from October to the end of the semester. I reached out to her dean and she gave everyone an automatic A for the course. You legend. I love the costume changes, I would have given you 100 just for that. It is a hope you had a paper trail to back you. This, along with not responding to email in a timely fashion, is likely what killed the job for him. I had a professor in college who tried to fail my group because one member didn't participate in the final presentation, because she has been in a car accident and was in a coma. We had her work she'd done before the accident and showed him, proving she had been participating, but he was adamant that we hadn't finished the requirements. We went above his head, with proof that she was in the hospital fighting for her life, and our grade got changed. I happened to see this professor again on campus a few months later. He tried to greet me with a friendly smile and I gave him the angriest death glare I could muster. I also did my best to let people know to never take his classes. I still remember in high school a group presentation that my history teacher had given the class a week to work on. I had been sick since the project was assigned, and found out about it when I came back the day before the presentation. Teacher offered to have me join a group and get the same credit they did. I refused, and spent that class putting together a solo presentation. Did it as the only person left at a news broadcast, as everyone else I would have swapped to was either at the sit-ins, or affected by boycotts and protests. I still group projects and presentations. You totally did the right thing, though you should have sent an email to the professor first, and when he didn't reply, go to the admin. The worst part is that the group project with individual speeches for each group member is a great way to do a collaborative project. The fact that Guy did 6 times the amount of work required is really the worst. This situation reminds me of when I had to organize my group for a record session in uni. They pretty much had to say what their profession is on the project and what they will be contributing. Straightforward, except for one member of the group, I continuously asked him to get it done. He never completed it, and I had to combine all of the videos at the end. When it got to his part of the video, I used a generic photo of him displaying his name. Unintentionally made it look like he died halfway through the project. Proud of you for taking control of the situation. The system is not exactly fair in college, but luckily you were able to fight for what is rightfully yours. Although you deserve a better grade, sometimes life just isn't fair. I'm so happy that you passed. Most of those professors are just lecturers by craft and are hired on an as-needed contract basis, meaning they all have a canned 12-16-week process and just mail in the effort. When I was in school I always made a point to visit with the professor in the first week and find out if they were tenured, what their research work was in, or if they were just clicking boxes for a paycheck. It's amazing how the dynamic of the class would change once you knew that kind of information. What did you maliciously comply with? This is why, as a teacher, when I assign group projects, as long as you're okay with the effort from your teammates, fine. But if someone isn't pulling their weight, or does nothing, the grade will be affected. I just need documentation. Honestly, I thought you doing all 6 parts was ingenious and I would have awarded the wow factor, which probably would have resulted in 100%. Edited typos. I got angry for you by just reading your experience. It's sad how much a professor, tar can make or break a class, and our grades. How is this malicious compliance? I was lucky. In my aerodynamics class 1 had to do a project with an Air Force logistics officer and a pilot. The pilot did the numbers and we double-checked them. I did the mission research. The logistics guy priced everything out. Magic. I know how lucky that was. Sort of like the defense lawyer claiming that you didn't try hard enough to prevent the defendant from stabbing you. Glad he is gone. I wonder what grades the no-shows were given. When you say, put on a different hat, are you being literal? Like you swapped headgear? If so, you deserved 100%. What a ledge. Y'all need GitHub in your lives. When the group leaves you high and dry, not only do you have commits to show literally who wrote each line, but a handy-dandy graph, too. Which is why I got an A on my senior project, and my partner has to repeat the course. Oh, I suppose it helps tremendously with not clobbering each other's work while working in parallel, too. I must have been lucky in college because my teams for group projects rocked. Our physics group project team had 2 engineering students, a graphic designer, and me, a math major. The engineers would conduct the experiments, the graphic artist would do the pictures, and I'd show the equations behind the physics. Every team project we did that semester, I think there were 4, was an A for us, and we had a blast every time we got together. I might get downvoted for this, but you definitely were partially in the wrong. You had 2 weeks to do the project, and when no one responded after 2 attempts you should have communicated that to him then, not 2 days before it was due. I agree you shouldn't have gotten a 0, but in the future don't wait until 2 days before something is due to communicate a problem to your professor. Not that I think that this professor would care, but if this happens again in the future, CC the professor after only 1 week of no response from groupmates to alert them of the problem. Not only is this what good professors need to know to correct the issue, it's basic CYA you'll need to learn to use when you work in an office environment. Management, in this case professors, need to be made aware when co-workers, in this case group members, are not reachable and don't pull their weight. Professors want you to think of group projects as something that will be preparing you for the workforce, and that includes CYA, which is the most important lesson you'll need to learn. Your only mistake was not going above his head earlier before the project was due. Would have really saved you the struggle of doing a group project on your own. Here's the thing that needs to be given a lot more power and that a lot more students need to understand. College is a product that students are paying for. Profs aren't mommy or daddy, and they're not bosses. They are people that you are, for all intents and purposes, paying to do a job for you. As such, you should absolutely hold their feet to the fire, and/or go over their heads if need be. This is a good story, and a nice bit of justice, but where exactly is the compliance? I hate group projects. My last one was a complete cluster. The cherry on top was the night it was due. The project leader started spamming our group chats asking what he was supposed to turn in. Everybody promptly told him the wrong things. Now mind you, the professor spent 10 minutes the day before going over just this. Eventually, I had to send a screenshot of the project PDF showing the exact items. Said items were highlighted in bright yellow by the professor. 4 months and not a single other member, especially the project leader, even read the PDF once. I was once in a similar situation. Did a majority of the work while other group members did nothing. Day of the presentation arrives. I'm horribly shy at this point and hated the fact I had to speak in front of the class. I was so nervous my voice was wobbly, but I got through it. My group mates get up, no preparation, and bullshit their way through. We were given our grades immediately after the presentation. Afterwards the professor comes up to me and tells me it was obvious I did the work and they didn't. They still got a higher grade than me. There's a reason group projects are the bane of all humanity. The pandemic, climate change. It's all the world's largest group project and therefore we're doomed. No offense, because I know school is stressful especially these times, but this is slightly on you. If your group isn't responding to you at all, you need to contact your professor way before 2 days until the due date. Otherwise, I think you did everything else right. Curious if the other 3 members had dropped the course, but the professor was so disorganized that they put the other 3 in your group. After escalation, the administrators noticed the drops, noticed the professor's reaction and non-response to your inquiry, and concluded that academia wasn't the right place for them. The professor failed you all right, in more ways than one. I just took a classroom assessment graduate class and this dude totally fucked up as an instructor. Group projects are bullshit and your grade should never suffer or artificially inflate based upon who you are paired with. The purpose of grades are to determine if you have hit the learning targets for the course, which you likely did as you did the entire project on your own. If I had reviewed your submission I would have laughed my ass off and apologized to you that your peers did not show up. He did a lot of things wrong here. Hopefully the other group members got a 0, which they earned. I was taking online college math and we took a brain-racking semester exam. A couple of weeks later we are told we need to retake. I group chat classmates and dean. He explains that the professor quit and they couldn't access his grading program. I lost it and flat out told him that it was his problem not ours. He said we would retake. I then asked him if he was admitting they had no backup plan in cases of lost gradebook access. And that we would contact the board and education agency for the state. Funny how our grades reappeared by noon the next day. Where is the malicious compliance though? The real question is what idiotic college student doesn't even do at least a little bit of project worth 30% of their grade. 3-part assignment, 3 people. I'm on it Monday morning, did a rough draft with an idea, posted in group area. Crickets. Send emails Wednesday. Crickets. Clean up my rough draft of an idea and submit it on Friday afternoon because screw doing school stuff on the weekend. They did nothing. I get a C because I didn't tattle to the teacher. Put on a different hat. Laughing my ass off, this is gold. It's a great story, but what's the malicious compliance? Was this at Farmingdale State College by any chance? I had a professor who was pretty much the same, didn't reply to any emails. One day I was lucky enough to actually get an appointment with him. I told him about how he doesn't reply to our emails and he said, "It's not my responsibility to email you back." I said to him, "Please say that again, I'll report you to the dean because your job is to email us back." He backtracked and actually helped with problems after that. Every email to your group should have been CC'd to your professor to keep a record of your efforts to get the project done by your group and on time. Going over his head was your only recourse. It's crazy that this has over 14k votes when there is even malicious compliance involved. People really do just upvote without regard to the subs point. Why is there even a point to specific subs anymore? I am an English professor. Your professor was a total tool. I would have died laughing at you doing all the parts and would have given you a great grade, if you met all the requirements of course, and failed the others. This type of lazy behavior on professors' parts irks the heck out of me. Lol, I actually just sent an email to my professor to appeal my grade. One little fucker ruined our group project grade. You should appeal that shitty grade, go to the program director or to the dean. Either he wasn't a professor but a lowly, underpaid adjunct, or this is that happened.